Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. We are in week 3 of great customer service. Today, I want to talk about You Had Me at Hello. You remember the famous movie Jerry Maguire and the famous scene where he's trying to win his wife back and he says, "You complete me." And then she says, "Shut up. You had me at hello." And I think that statement's really true when it comes to every customer who walks through your door or picks up the phone to call you, or if you're just responding to a chat, you're responding to an email. There's just something powerful about the hello, the welcome. I like walking into restaurants where when you walk in, they notice you. Mod Pizza, great pizza and a great price. And every time you walk in, everybody goes, "Hey, welcome to Mod Pizza." And it's like, hey, all right, that's nice. My son Wes, he worked at Panda for about 3 weeks, and Panda Express, great food, love it. And they were taught when everybody comes in, "Hey, welcome to Panda Express." And then when you leave, "Hey, goodbye." And when somebody gave round it up, and the little bell rings, "Hey, thanks." And my girls at Chick-fil-A, they worked at Chick-fil-A when in high school, and they always said, "My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure." It got real annoying because they were walking around our house. You go, "Hey, thanks, my pleasure, my pleasure." It's like, okay, you're not at work right now. I was in Japan recently, incredible experience, and man, best sushi I've ever had. They had these phenomenal little salmon on rice. I love salmon on rice, and it was $1, and it was like 100 times better than anything I've had in the United States. So my wife and I ate way too much, but it was so good. But when we'd walk into this sushi restaurant, it was always, everybody was like, "Welcome, welcome, hello, hello, hello." And then on the way out, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." And just everywhere you went, any store, they just made you feel so welcome. And it was like, hey, I like being here. And it makes you want to stay longer and spend more money too. So make sure your employees, everybody inside of your culture just has the hello, welcome, glad that you're here. Whatever slogan you want to come up with, but just build into your culture welcome. That's why we have greeters at the front door at Element Church. That's why even our parking team, "Hey, welcome to Element Church," because so many people we live in a cynical world, and you're getting blasted everywhere you go. Sometimes that might be the only welcome and smiling face you've seen all day or all week. And sometimes people might just come back for a good hello. Number 2, teach and train your team that they're to smile when they say hello. It's not enough just to go, "Hello." Too many people I've been in it where you can tell it's just, like a to-do item, and they sound like Marge from Monsters, Inc. "Hello, welcome." And it's like, yeah, you're not really sincere. I don't really feel that. So there's something about a smile that just goes a long way. Why is a dog man's best friend? Because their tail is always wagging when you come home. Roughly 70% of the meaning of every human interaction is conveyed through nonverbal communication. And part of that is your smile. Do you know Ronald McDonald? McDonald's profits, 40% of their profits come from Happy Meals. Why? Because everybody loves happy. Facial muscles in your face. Did you know you had over 250,000 different combinations of expressions that you could make? That's crazy. 250,000. But statistics, the research has shown it actually takes more muscles to frown than to smile. In other words, it actually is more work to frown than it is to smile. I think God designed the human body to want to smile more than it does frown. Abraham Lincoln one time had to replace a particular cabinet position, and somebody had suggested a particular person. And Abraham Lincoln made this statement. He goes, "I don't like his face." So the guy goes, "Well, that's not fair to judge somebody by their face." And Abraham said this. He goes, "Everybody over 40 is responsible for his face." In other words, when you have a sour-looking face and you have frown lines, you put those there because you allowed that. But the person who has these, permanent smile lines and they look happy, that's because you made certain choices to choose to be happy. And really, honestly, happiness in so many ways is a choice. Psalms 103, one of my favorite Psalms, David says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul. All that is within me, bless his holy name." Says it a second time, "Bless the Lord, O my soul." What is David doing? He's telling himself, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be joyful, whether I feel like it or not. And then ultimately your feelings will follow your faith and the decisions that you make. So we're going to learn to say hello. We're going to be welcoming. We're going to learn to do it with a smile. And then one great thing is, as you're getting to interact with your customer, and we're going to get into some of that next week, and that is remember their name. One of the most powerful things you could do to make somebody feel welcomed and cared about and valuable is remember their name. So this fits into the hello, because there's a restaurant that I enjoy going to, BC's Kitchen, here in the Lake St. Louis, Wentzville area. And the hostess, Kathy, if you're listening to this, hey. Kathy, when I walk in, Kathy always goes, "Hey, Eric, great to see you." She remembers my name. Now, she's the only one in there that remembers my name, but it always makes me feel good that she remembers my name. Now, there's some other restaurants that I go to that I actually frequent more often than BC's Kitchen, and they should know my name, and they don't. And I go there in spite of them, because the food is really good. But if I ever have a negative experience that could tip me over the edge, they haven't won my loyalty simply because I go, "You should probably know my name by now. It's on my credit card, my debit card, every time I swipe it. Just learn it, remember it." Okay. So, but it makes me feel good when she remembers my name. And when you know the name of your customers, you call them out by name. So, hello. Hey, Jim, good to see you. Hey, Eric, good to see you. There's just something about that makes it so personal. So here's how you remember people's names. Use it 3 times in the first 5 minutes of an introduction. So you introduce somebody, you meet them, and you get their name. Their name's Fred. "Well, Fred, it sure is good to meet you." "Well, Fred, how did you hear about us?" "Well, Fred, so glad you came back today." "Fred, anything we could do to make your experience better?" If you could just use their name several times in that first 5 minutes, it is going to dramatically increase your retention. Some people have great habits that they'll even keep a notebook, and they'll just literally record names and put maybe some details about that new customer that they met, and they'll look at that, they'll review it. I know some friends in business industries that they literally just have flip cards, and they just go through and they memorize the top 250 customers that they have, and they just learn their names. And there's just something in the power of a name. Everybody loves the sound of their name, and so learn and get the names of your customers. Look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to get into the power of questions in building loyalty.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at ericlawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.